Welcome to this week's edition of World Crisis Radio. This is Webster Tarpley speaking to you from Washington, D.C. A very full plate this week. The rhythm of the world crisis has accelerated over the past 7 days. We have yet another Chinese ultimatum to the United States, a second Chinese ultimatum, this time on finance. The first one, remember, 3 or 4 weeks ago, was that China would consider any attack on Pakistan as an attack on China. This one is now a warning from the Chinese central bank to the lunatics in the American Congress and their hedge fund short speculators there in the background. Don't default. Don't default. Don't go bankrupt. Get that debt ceiling fixed, say the Chinese. You are playing with fire. And they are right. Let's see if this can get through the thick skulls of these Tea Party lunatics, Austrian thugs, Chicago boy extremists in the U.S. Congress who are being told by Stanley Druckenmiller, that is to say by Soros, in the background, that a default would be a good thing if you could solve your long-term deficit. This is exactly what Druckenmiller told Senator Domenici in 1995. He's obviously short the dollar. Don't listen to advice from people who are shorts. That's a criminal conspiracy. If you are a speculator a la Bess, a short, then you have a vested interest. That is pure political corruption, and the American people will remember, and they are not happy, and they will not tolerate this kind of stuff anymore. That's one thing. We are at the point now where, according to the 1848 model, the revolutions, so-called, the insurrections, let's be more accurate, the insurrections and pushes are at the point of turning into civil wars and into international wars. Remember that in 1848. That was the June days of Paris, 24th, 26th of June, 1848. We are getting there. The spring is almost over. The Arab Spring, whatever that piece of demagogy was supposed to be, is virtually over, and war is now clouding the horizon. And in particular, it looks like the United States is up to 5 wars under Butcher Obama. 5 wars: Afghanistan, Iraq, Pakistan, Libya, and now Yemen. We have Leon Panetta of the CIA headed over to become the head of the Pentagon, saying that the Joint Special Operations Command is now active in Yemen, and they're working together. There's an office of the CIA and the Joint Special Operations Command in Yemen who are directing what is obviously an attempt to start a civil war, promote secessionism, promote guerrilla warfare. The only purpose for this, an attack on Saudi Arabia, the country contiguous with Yemen. But let's look further. War clouds on the horizon. President Ahmadinejad of Iran now has officially warned Pakistan that the U.S. is planning to strike the Pakistani nuclear forces. That is a big escalation, let's say, in this current situation. Ahmadinejad joins his voice to those warning Pakistan. He says the United States is planning to strike the Pakistani nuclear forces. He says under the previous administration, the Bush regime, we had the mask or the pretext of imperialism was the supposed global war on terror, but right now it is the alleged question of human rights, or as he says, national rights. So let's see if we can get some quotes from this. Ahmadinejad told a press conference in Tehran on Tuesday, "We have precise information that the Americans are seeking to sabotage Pakistan's nuclear facilities so that they can gain control over the Pakistani nation and government and weaken them." He says the United States is also seeking to use the United Nations Security Council and some other international organizations as a lever to pave the way for its increased presence in Pakistan with the aim of undermining Pakistan's national sovereignty. He's also got some warnings about what the U.S. is doing in Bahrain. Commenting on the U.S. government's international policy, Ahmadinejad said that although a new government has come to power in the U.S., the Obama regime, the nature of the ruling system has not changed. Quote, only the masks have changed. Campaigning against terrorism was the mask of the previous U.S. administration, but the mask of the current administration is supporting nations' rights. I think he means human rights, the alleged rule of law, and all of this. And finally, from Ahmadinejad, this quote, the current U.S. administration is promoting a liberal Islam which recognizes the hegemony of the U.S. and the existence of the expansionist Israeli regime. So that's an important warning from Ahmadinejad. Now, nobody can claim not to be aware of this imminent threat of U.S. cross-border aggression out of Afghanistan to strike at the Pakistani nuclear forces. This is something that was set up, as we know, by General McChrystal when he was at the Joint Special Operations Command, and this is indeed what was underlying that adventurous circus with bin Laden at the beginning of May. Ahmadinejad has also been very blunt that there is a political divergence, a faction fight, a political conflict between himself and the mularchy. The mularchy, that means Supreme Leader Khamenei. So Ahmadinejad says that there is a 180-degree difference in political orientation between himself and Khamenei. The mullahs, on the other hand, are saying that Ahmadinejad is deviating from the revolution. They accuse him of revolutionary deviance. Well, no mystery where this broadcast comes down. Ahmadinejad is capable of providing future guidance to Iran. He is a military man, more or less in the Nasser tradition, or at least to some extent. He's concerned with science, modernization, and real-world factors. And I think on the other side, there is no comparable program that could be offered to the Iranian people that would be comparable in value to what Ahmadinejad is trying to do. And we have to wonder, why is it that the mullahs are acting up precisely at this time? Remember, the old tradition was that the mullahs during the time of the Shah were basically looking towards the colonial powers, and perhaps that tendency has now been revived. So Ahmadinejad fighting and providing some important illumination on this question of what's going to happen with Pakistan. Now, concerning Pakistan itself, before we leave Iran, the Israelis have been saying now that we are about a month, well, let's say 2 months away, 2 months, 8 weeks to an actual functioning Iranian nuclear bomb. I don't know how to evaluate this. I doubt that this is true. On the other hand, it might be true, but the motivation of the Israelis in any case is to hype war, and it goes together with the statements from Netanyahu that what is happening on the Golan Heights, where you have demonstrators, Palestinian demonstrators coming across or attempting to come across on the anniversary of the 1967 Six-Day War, 20 to 25 people killed by the Israelis. None of that makes any sense. There's no need to kill people at the border in that way. You can secure your border by other means. So there's a desire, I guess, maybe on both sides to create some kind of an incident. But the Israelis now becoming, Netanyahu in particular, becoming more aggressive in the rhetoric vis-a-vis Iran. Now, in Pakistan, the United States drone strikes in Pakistan continue, and Panetta, again moving from the CIA to the Department of Defense, says he wants more of them. The U.S. ambassador to Pakistan, Cameron Munter, said it would be better to keep these narrowly defined. But anyway, this is a debate among imperialists. The drone strikes go on, and they must stop. And we'll be back in a minute on World Crisis Radio.